Afghanistan has once become a hub for terrorists again, less than 2 years after the withdrawal from the U.S. out of the country. This, according to intelligence reports in those leaked Pentagon documents we've been telling you about. Now, according to the Washington Post, by February, Pentagon officials were aware of 15 potential terror plots being organized by ISIS leaders in Afghanistan, including planned attacks on churches, embassies, and the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar. One document written in March even describes ISIS's efforts to develop a chemical weapon. The Taliban denies the Pentagon's findings. Let's bring in NewsNation national security analyst Tracy Walder. Tracy, good morning to you. I know a lot of Americans were frustrated by the withdrawal of U.S. troops in Afghanistan. There were a number of military experts who said that the consequences of that withdrawal could be dire. Really, did it do any good for us to leave Afghanistan, especially seeing what's happening today?
Well, thank you so much for having me, Adrienne. In short, no, it did not. Look, I lived in Afghanistan. I spent a lot of time in Afghanistan. I got to know the people of Afghanistan. And I really do not think that this withdrawal in the long run helps our war on terrorism. The reality is terrorists really thrive in chaos and instability. And that's really what Afghanistan's been thrown into. First, it was Iraq. Now they've moved back into Afghanistan. And so this recent spike in terms of planning attacks is really not surprising to me because it's really providing them with a stable home base.
Back in 2021, President Biden actually saying, quote, the responsibility of the Afghan people would be to decide how they want to run their country. Fast forward to now, could we say that there was some U.S. involvement in allowing Afghanistan to devolve into another terroristic hub?
You know, I think the reality is we probably can say that. The issue with Afghanistan is it's very much clannish, it's very much familial, and you have a lot of warring factions, quite frankly. And that's what we're seeing right now. You really don't have one leader who's really dictating the rules and the laws, and not that we should have a dictator, but it's not even a democracy either. It's really a lot of fighting in factions, and we have contributed to that.
I think the biggest fear for a lot of people is that we would see another 9/11 here at home. You know, it's far enough away that so many of us don't even give it a thought. And yet it's in our own backyard, so to speak, when you think about the reach and the central location, so much history, so much fighting goes on right in that particular part of the world. Do we have a fear of this reaching domestic terror threats?
I think the reality is yes. And I certainly don't want to alarm people. But here's the thing, ISIS-K, which is what this group is, ISIS Khorasan, they mostly operate in sort of that Central Asia area. They are trying to conduct attacks worldwide. And they really do have a propaganda apparatus, which is very stable and has been set up in Afghanistan. And they have really, I think as recently as February of 2023, there were some European sympathizers that we caught trying to cross the border into Afghanistan to be trained to launch attacks worldwide. So it would not be surprising to me at all, especially now that they sort of have a stable home base, if you will.
So what do we do? I mean, we can't put everything back the way it was. What should the U.S.'s strategy be next?
You're right. We absolutely can't put everything back the way it was, nor should we necessarily. But I do think one of the things that I'm seeing and hearing is a lot of chatter, if you will, amongst sort of warring factions in Afghanistan, amongst the Taliban. And the one thing the Taliban wants is international recognition as a government, and they haven't received that yet. And so we can capitalize on that infighting to sort of really, in a way, force them to get these terrorist entities out if they want that international recognition as a legitimate government source. So I think that that's one thing that we can do from a diplomatic standpoint.
From a diplomatic standpoint, playing off of the egos of the Taliban to make them feel like they're actually legit, even if they're not. Tracy Walder, thank you for your time.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.